It is great to have peace that God can give and God does give. And to be here today, thank you for taking time. I know that the schedules are a bit different, but you've made it a priority to be here to worship. And our God's worthy of worship. He's worthy of all praise. And this COVID, one thing it's done, I think, for all of us is it's made us not take for granted a lot of the things that we used to take for granted. That we just, we did our daily routine. We're all guilty of that. You do what you do every day, and you don't always think, or at least I don't. Maybe you're better than I am at that. But this has made us stop and think about even little things like, when I go to the gas station, I'm driving, and every single time I'll get out, and I'll if I need to go in the building, I'm like, oh, I got to go back and get that mask. I don't ever remember it, because it's not a routine to always do it when I've gotten gas for all these 50 years, 40 years I've been driving. So it's made us stop and thank God for little things that we can do every single day. Today we're going to look at a passage from 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13 through 21. It's a passage that talks about living before God, living before Jesus Christ every moment of the day. A question that I have to ask myself often, and I think I've asked you this once before, and that is, do we act differently when people are watching than when we know that no one's watching? Because when no one's watching, and we know no one's watching, we're not being checked up on, that we're all alone. That's when our true character is revealed. So to answer that question, think about, like driving. When you're in your car, do you drive differently when the car behind you is marked with highway patrol or police? I do. I try to be, relatively good with the speed limits and all. I don't, overdo it, I don't think. When I came home from college once, and I made it home a little quicker from Clemson to Dillon, South Carolina than my dad thought I should have made it. And his words were, "Did you overspeed?" No. Overspeed, no. But, back then the speed limit was 55. I said, I didn't go 55. So we act differently when we know someone's watching. The last time I got pulled, I was over near Conway. Sunday afternoon, I was leaving church. I saw a policeman over there. When I saw him, I looked at my speedometer. I was going 56, and I thought, I'm good. I might have even waved at him, I don't know. Well, then a minute later, he pulled me over, and he said, "Do you know why I stopped you?" And I said, "I don't have any idea." And he said, "You know what the speed limit is here?" And I said, "It's 55, right?" And he said, "No, it's 45. And I said, "Are you kidding me?" Because I thought I was, was doing great, and I was happy when I saw him, and I don't have to worry about it. In life, sometimes it can be like that we're going through the motions, and we're just like that. And he didn't write me a ticket. I think he was laughing at me because I was obviously shocked, that he had stopped me. But sometimes in life, I think it can be like that. I can. When we're going through life and everything's good and we're not really thinking about it, we're just cruising along. Everything's smooth. But there's always the Father in heaven who's watching us. And he's not watching us to try to put a finger or a thumb on us and press us down. He wants, like we sang a minute ago, he wants his glory revealed through us. He wants his glory to just shine, shine, shine. It bothers me that people outside of Christ who don't profess a relationship with Christ say regularly that they don't see a difference between believers and non-believers in the way we behave. That's troubling, because that's saying, we're not really the real deal. Not too many years ago, I ran across a statistic that talked about divorce rates, and it named the 3 occupations with the highest divorce rates in the country. They wouldn't really surprise you, I don't think. Number 1 is doctor. Number 2 is police officer. And number 3 is pastor. Now, I think there are lots of reasons for those things, and one of them is just Satan, that prowling lion, is looking to devour people. And all of those categories are people we all count on. Not to mean if you're not one of those, we don't count on you. But Satan's going to attack the most obvious people, where he can do the most damage. And when you've got a physician that treats others, or a police officer that helps all of us, or a pastor that is a spiritual leader, Satan is trying to destroy them. He's going to try to destroy your public testimony too. Wherever you work, or wherever you hobby, and the people you're around, the people who know you, he's going to try to destroy you. So what we want to do is to look and act like Christ would have us to look and act. So the question then becomes, all right, how do we do that? We want to be holy as Christ was holy, and being holy is a progression. It's not just a one-time deal when, hey, I'm good today, and then I can coast along like I was that Sunday afternoon, just driving along. But no, it's every moment of life being attentive to what God would have us attentive to. And 1 Peter chapter 1, beginning with verse 13, says this: Therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. As obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lust as in your ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, because it is written, Be holy, for I am holy. And if you call on the Father, who without partiality judges according to each one's work, conduct yourselves throughout the time of your stay here in fear, knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold from your aimless conduct received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. He indeed was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who through him believe in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God. Now, the first phrase there in verse 13, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober. So gird up the loins. You know how in the first century and before that and even after, men wore the long flowing robes. So if someone was going in the battle, or if someone was going to run or travel, they took their cloak and they pulled it up and they tucked it in their belt. They got it out of the way so they wouldn't get tangled up in it. Like you and I would do at the beach or something with long pants, or with women would do with the long dress. You pull it up so that it's not in the way. So he says, gird up the loins of your mind, getting prepared for combat. What we think determines what we do. And if we dwell on something, think about something long enough, often we will do that, for good or for bad. So if we're meditating on godly things and on Christian things, we're going to behave that way. If we're thinking about worldly things, we sang just a few minutes ago that God was more precious than silver and gold and diamonds, that nothing we desire compares with him. So if we're focused on godly things, we're going to do that. If we're focused on worldly things, that's what we're going to chase after. And if we think about something long enough, we're going to make it happen. When I was in seminary, I got to spend the summer in Israel on an archaeological dig, and we lived on a kibbutz, which is a Jewish settlement. We were an hour or thereabouts south of Jerusalem, and what in biblical times was the edge of the Philistine territory. So we were working and digging up stuff, and we ate the food that they served on the kibbutz. So basically, breakfast, you'd get up and they had unflavored yogurt. They had bread, just a plain, hard crusted bread. Had jelly and butter and stuff to put on it. They often, maybe occasionally, I can't remember now because it was long ago, they had eggs and things, but they had the same thing every day. Didn't ever vary. At lunch, you had some kind of pasta dish, and you'd have, again, just like breakfast, you had tomatoes and cucumbers chopped up. So lunch, you had the same thing. Then at supper, they brought it to us on our work site because we worked until dark. So they would bring you bread and then sliced up cucumbers and tomatoes. And then if there was something left from lunch, like pasta, they'd bring it. Like one day at lunch, I went in and they had that pasta dish with meat in it. And I asked the lady serving, what is this? Pasta and what? And she said, and pasta and meat. And I said, what kind of meat? She said, meat. I thought, well, you don't want to tell us, so I guess it's something I probably wouldn't choose to eat. But what happened, we had one guy on our team, David. Every morning we would get up, and after breakfast we would spend some time washing the pottery that we had collected the day before and cataloging it if there was anything significant that we found. Then at lunch we would eat lunch and then leave for the work site and work all afternoon. Well, every morning David would sit there while we were washing the pottery, and he would say things like, oh, to have a nice thick ribeye steak would be so nice. To have some real scrambled eggs or fried eggs, and to have a biscuit like my mama made. And he would talk about all these things, and some butter beans, and he just went on and on. And David talked about that every day to the point that it was, to be honest, it was miserable. Because you're sitting there and he's talking about all this food that you can't get there. And he's making all of us want it. And we're sitting there and your mouths are just kind of, you're drooling. You want that stuff. And David was planting the seed in us that, hey, don't you want that stuff? Yeah, we wanted that stuff. But you weren't going to get it there. So we eventually got to the point when we had a bit of a revolt, and when David would start talking like that, we'd take our buckets that we wash the pottery in, and we'd throw the water at him, hush him down. And we don't want to hear it. Yeah, we want that stuff. And we started saying things like, yeah, we want one when we go into Jerusalem this weekend. Why don't you buy us a steak, David, and bring it back? We'll reimburse you. You just go find it and bring it back. Well, you couldn't. Well, what God is saying here to us in the scripture is, gird up the loins of your mind. Think about the things that are going to be profitable in your walk with Christ. Not the things that are not going to be profitable. Not the things that God would not have us do. We are in a battle. Satan is our adversary. He wants to destroy us. A man that I grew up with, he was a few years older than me, but his dad was my pastor, Ron Zedek. Ron was a pastor in Columbia, South Carolina, and he was traveling somewhere or another years ago, flying. And the lady beside him in the seat was a Wiccan priestess, so a witch. And they were talking during the flight, and Ron asked her in the conversation, he said, well, I know that y'all have got things that you desire and things that you ask Satan to do in your life. So what do you pray for? And she said, well, to be honest, one of the primary prayers that we have is that Satan will destroy pastors. And you're a pastor, so I'm praying that God will destroy you. And we really are in a battle. So gird up the loins of our minds. Think about things that will